Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it. Then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hello, and welcome to Battlefields. I'm your host, Ryan Fields. With me tonight is Cody. How you doing, Cody?
I'm doing great. I actually slept pretty terrible last night because the little baby was doing baby stuff, crying while I'm sleeping, and had to sort that out. But I'm doing good. Other than that, God is good, so I'm good.
Great, very good. I said tonight. It's actually early morning for this episode.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of a change here. We needed to do an early morning episode because we're actually doing an interview from 12 hours, ahead of us? Ahead of us, yes. All the way from Australia. We mentioned at the end of last week's episode with one of Cody's friends. Tell us a little bit how you know Nathan.
So Nathan Green is... someone I met when I was living in Australia. I was there for about 2.5 years, attending Hillsong International Leadership College.
Okay.
Nathan, I believe, went to college as well. I didn't have any classes with him, but we were housemates for a while. Got to know him pretty good. He's an awesome guy. Good, just hardworking man, good God-fearing man. Gonna, hopefully talk to him about just what's going on over there. We've all heard the horror stories in the news about
really.
Australia now. So
yeah, we just thought this would be a great episode to set up. Just just with somebody who's just like us, a regular citizen over there, but just for a different point of view, actually, from Australia, that you're getting kind of a firsthand account of it. We just thought it was a great opportunity to try to set that up. So
right, and he's not a government guy or he doesn't work for the government, rather. So he's,
right. Yeah. Like
he's just coming from
just a regular guy, just like us. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and give him a call here.
All right.
And hopefully I got the time zone right and he's not asleep.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me good?
Yeah. Yeah. Normally we don't do a video call.
Yeah.
We don't have a camera set up yet, so.
And we're kind of.
Hey, this is good, man.
Yeah.
And I'm Ryan, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Hey, how you going, bro? Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're reporting from our bunker here since we're not in our houses, so we didn't wake up the rest of our families this morning.
Yeah. What time is it?
7:30
in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a exact 12-hour difference.
Right.
You're still in Perth time zone, right?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, let's get into it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I guess just since I'm just meeting you, tell us a little about yourself. Just some of your background, what you do for a living, and just a little information about you.
Yeah, sure, man. All right. So my name is Nathan Green, and I'm an auto electrician. So I work on cars, that type of thing.
Okay.
I grew up in Kalgoorlie, Western Australia, which is a country town, about 30,000 people, in sort of the middle of nowhere in Western Australia. So I grew up there for 20 years or whatever, and went to Bible college in whatever year it was for a couple of years. That's where I met Cody. That's where Bible college. Pretty much been a Christian my whole life, and then I thought, well, let's go try something out. I could go to the mines and make a bunch of money, or I can go travel across the country and see what it has to offer. So went over to college and had an awesome experience there. So I finished college and then stayed in Sydney Worked there as an auto electrician. Sorry, I try not to slur my words too much with my Aussie accent.
Oh no, it's fine.
No, keep it.
So what? Yeah, sure. Went kept working in Sydney after I finished college as an auto electrician, and then met my wife, who's actually from Kansas, from America, from Kansas.
Oh, okay.
And she's in Lawrence. Yep. And we got married in Colorado. So we went from Sydney to Colorado to get married, come back to Australia, moved to Perth, and been here for 2.5 years now. Yeah, so I'm
did you guys actually meet at the college too, or?
Yeah, we met in Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was out of college at that point. I wasn't in college anymore, but yeah, we met through people that knew people from college, and
she was in college as well, right? At Hillsong.
Yeah, she did Hillsong College for a year and a half.
Okay.
I did it for 2 years, so I finished the 2-year course. And yeah, it was a life-changing experience for me, perspective-wise. I learned so much. But
yeah.
Pretty much did that. But at the end of the day, like, really, I'm just your classic, typical Aussie tradie bloke that did Bible college. Like, that's pretty much my story. It's me, really. Like, I grew up blowing cars up and rally driving and doing stupid stuff out in the bush, and then moved to the city and decided I hated it, so I moved back to Perth.
Right. Love it. That's great.
Yeah, just trying to give you like a round idea of who I am, and yeah. So I figured that might. I'm just a redneck from, redneck bogan from Australia.
I think that's why we became good friends, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. It was nice Cody's a top bloke, just a good guy, straight down the middle, tells you how it is. So
yeah, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I reckon it's the way.
Yeah.
So, well, let's before we get into the I guess current relevant COVID whatnots, wanted to talk a little bit about Australian culture versus American culture. Any pet peeves you might have with Americans? Go ahead and offend our listening audience right off the bat.
I'll offend the pants off you.
Yeah. And what makes you proud to be Australian? What are the best things about it?
The best things about being Aussie.
Oh yeah,
man. So many things. I just want to say before I start, I listened to the podcast with Pastor Brad? Is that his name?
Yes.
Amazing guy. What an awesome dude. That was such a great podcast to listen to. Honestly,
he really is.
I just was blown away at his wisdom and knowledge.
Oh yeah, he's got an incredible story. God's doing a lot in his ministry.
Yeah. Like we said in there, the boldness it takes to actually come out and speak on some of these things now, because so many churches are just not. And so when he started that whole counterculture series that he's going through, it's like, we need to get him on here. Like this everyone needs to hear this. So yeah, definitely. It takes some cojones, eh?
Yeah.
to talk. It really does.
We appreciate that, though. That's just in that kind of search for relevant material, relevant guests that everybody kind of needs to hear from, like our other couple that we had on, with Dr. Powers. That was our second one that we did. Just the medical information that needs to be out there for everybody nowadays, and then. With the first episode that we did with a gentleman named Andrew Glover, who here locally for us in Lynchburg, Virginia, he's really been extremely active in speaking out in some of the city council and school board issues, and just been a huge voice for kind of the conservative movement here around locally. So we wanted to get him a larger platform to be able to speak on and all that. It's just like I said, just trying to find relevant, vital information and give people a platform to talk about it. So
it's good to hear some feedback on that, though.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. Definitely.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. It was awesome. Yeah, and I think that's amazing. Just what you guys are doing. It's really helpful to hear just genuine stories and genuine people.
Oh, that's awesome. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Aussie culture, and I guess we'll get to some of the government stuff you were just mentioning just now.
Oh yeah.
Well, at least I think it's government based anyway in the future. But Aussie culture versus American culture. All right. Well, I'm married to an American girl and I'm an Aussie bloke, so I'd say I'd have a pretty good perspective on this. And I just want to say all of this stuff that we're going to talk about, it really is just my opinion. I'm not a specialist in anything or anything like that. I'm just a guy with an idea, and that's about it. So
that's what we wanted.
Yeah, that's what makes it. You're just like us. You're just trying to, just trying to make it in all of this stuff.
We're all just trying to make sense of the world, eh?
Yeah,
that's why I got a little bit of Woodford Reserve here just to keep us going.
So we've got our coffee because it's AM here, but
Love it.
Proof of the times haven't changed.
Yeah. It's 7:30 over here, man. It's time for a nightcap. But yeah, anyway. So I think one of the biggest differences between Aussie culture and American culture would have to be we have a thing here called tall poppy syndrome. So if you think about that, it's like if you've got a field of poppies, flowers, and they're growing, and there's one poppy that's just up above the rest, and then someone will come along and cut that poppy down because it's just up above the rest. So that's what we call tall poppy syndrome in Australia, and that is a very well-known Australian culture, very strong part of our culture, and it's basically like not standing out. Australian culture is very much against standing out. I'll never forget when I went to San Diego, and it blew my mind. I was like, wow, this is America, because it's so different to Australia, right? You guys are so the opposite of that. Like, it's like, you go and you do your thing, man. Like, you be the best in the world at that. Like, it's a very encouraging, supportive culture in America. It's very much like, you go and do it. Don't you guys agree with that? Or
oh yeah,
right?
I'd say so.
Yeah. So like, I really feel like that's America. It's like, go and do it, go and be the best. Like, capitalism all the way. Like, that's America. That's how I view America, and I'm very much in support of that view. Australia is very much like, we don't want to stand out. It's a very strong part of Australian culture. So like when I was in San Diego, for example, I saw 4 different people roller skating down. We were walking down the beach. So we're just walking down the beach in San Diego. I can't remember what beach it was. And I saw 4 different people like roller skating or push bike riding down the walkway we're on the beach. And they were like wearing the weirdest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Like just they look like total whack jobs, and they're like just singing at the top of their lungs with their like headphones in, just cranking down the walkway. and I know that probably would never happen in the Midwest, or where you guys in the Midwest. Is that what you would call that in the Midwest?
We're on the East Coast. Kansas would,
Yeah, we're Cody. Yeah, but. Yeah, Virginia being on the East Coast, but still, in our town, not too many people just scantily dressed with rollerblades on. But
there are things though.
There's still things, but it's definitely that vibe is there. We definitely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like this. These people were trying to be as different as possible they could be. They were trying to be as different as they could possibly be.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't exist here. You would never see that. You would just never, ever, ever see that. And I think that it's very much the extremes of our culture. Like, for example, like Australia, all the women pretty much dress the same. Not to an extreme, but like pretty generally, like almost if you go to the coast, almost every girl is wearing leggings and some sort of activewear outfit. That's what they're wearing.
I did notice that.
Yeah, it's what you wear. So everyone wears that. So I think that has a really big part to play in the way that Australians act out their lives. It's we're also the type of people that don't like to have deep conversation. Australians don't really like to have deep convos. Americans will go a lot deeper with you with the conversation. You know, they want to learn about you and who you are and what makes you tick. And Australians are like, oh, how's the weather? To everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very like surface level relationships. A lot of social surface level relationships in Australia. We don't like to be vulnerable. Whereas Americans, I feel like you guys are much more willing to be vulnerable, and because of that, you know, those two things, you've got like your like. I want to try to tie this together in a way that is relevant to the subject we're talking about here. So we don't want to stand out, and we don't want to have deep conversations about things. We also don't politicize things. Like you guys have got, I remember watching it. I came over during the election for Trump and Hillary for a little bit, and like you've got signs like stamped in the front of your lawn, Trump, you know, or Hillary. Like it's like that. The House is declaring we're declaring who we're voting for. And we just don't do that here. We don't tell people who we voted for. Like it's private information. You know, you don't need to know that. That's how it is here. So that's actually something that pisses me off about America. Yeah, it's very different. It's very different.
Wear their politics on their sleeves sometimes, or
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like that's actually something that I don't like about America is how political it is. Especially for Christians, I think that Christians need to wake up and realize that God is their king and not whoever the president is at the time. You know.
Yeah, that's right.
Because, and I think Brad really like spoke to that in the last podcast. You know, like how about activism and that type of thing. It was really, really good. You know, so yeah, I think those are the three main things I think about. Is basically the tall poppy syndrome, shallow conversations, and politicizing everything. And I would say that if you put those things together, it means that Australians don't like to have controversial opinions. They don't like to talk about things that would be classed as conspiracies. And they don't like to like talk about politics in any way, shape or form and the way that like policies are shaping our society. We don't want anything to do with any of that. And now what's happened with COVID is all of these things have just been shoved in our faces. And it's gone, well, we're going to force a vaccine on you, so too bad. So you have a large group of people that are going, oh, well, guess that's how it is. If I can't work, then – and I think this is probably the majority of Australians. I think probably 60 to 70% would say, well, can't work unless I get the jab, so I guess I'll get vaccinated. And that's about as much as they think about it. The other 20, 30%, whatever percentage it is that isn't like that, is a silent minority that just says, I don't think I really want to get it, but they're not going to stand up and shout from the rooftops that they disagree with it. Whereas in America, it's it's you guys will.
Oh yeah,
and
I
laughed
this conversation.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's why I was so excited to be a part of this podcast, because, like, I'm actually the type of person that wants to shout from the rooftops and say, "No, this is BS. Like, you can't do these type of things."
Yeah.
You know, I'm not for this, but there's not many people that are going to want to have that conversation with me here. You know,
yeah.
Because people don't like controversial conversation, and that's Australian culture, I think. You know, and it has worked really well, quite strongly to our society for a long time. You know, we've got the largest working class society in the world. I think 80% or 90% of our population is working class. Okay. We have a very small group of our population is like super rich, super wealthy. Most of Australia is just working class people, you know, and just trying to get along and live the dream. And it's reasonably doable here in Australia, you know, for the moment.
Yeah, I do remember it. You know, one of the main things that I took away from Australia was just that you guys have this incredible sense of togetherness. Without being total raging socialists, like you're I don't know, you have a strong uniting, I don't know what I'm trying to say. You're just
culture.
Yeah, you're just in it together. You're like, if you're
That's
Aussie,
right.
if you're Aussie, I'm gonna stick it out for you because we're Aussies.
That's right. And that's actually a part of the cultural factor of not standing out, and that's how we do it. We try to work as a team, and I think that comes from the fact that we're all convicts, originally. Like, that's where we came from, and it's very much just like, no, we want to do what's right for each other. It's actually quite a strong culture here as well. We really want to do what's right for each other. It's not as individualistic as America. America is very much, my rights, my freedom, my life. Like, I'm standing up for what's mine. I think you guys do have that in right and left. Your Democrats are very much us. Your Republicans are very much us. I feel like the South is or like the Midwest is like, we love America. I drove from Kansas I didn't drive. I was in the car with someone driving from Kansas to Colorado and listened to country music the entire way. And by the end of that drive, I felt like I really understood America. I was like, right. I was just like, I get it. It's about drinking beer, hanging out on the weekends, having a good time with your mates, working hard, trying to do what you have to do to get through life, and being together and being a family. And like, just that's America to me, have a bit of fun when you can, work hard, correct me if I'm wrong, or like add to something if you want to. But like, it's very much like, I really love the America that's portrayed in country music.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you've been listening to the country radio, haven't you?
I mean, I think that for many Americans, that's definitely accurate. I mean, you mentioned the thing about, the political signs in the yard and all that kind of stuff. But, I know for me personally, of course, always had a proud of my country, serving God, proud of my country kind of mindset of it. But, I think that a lot of people here kind of also have that, similar to what you said in Australia, that sort of, I guess, just the men who want to be left alone kind of concept, that they want to do that. They want to live their lives. They don't want to have to put a sign in their yard to declare that what this person affiliates with are the freedoms that they're claiming, because you just want to live your life. You just want to do your thing. That's the whole, with everything being so divided over here right now, you get to that point where you feel like you're screaming internally every day. And so, you almost do just kind of call it rage, call it, just frustration that you start to do those, you put that sign on because you're like, all right, I'm voting for freedom, and
it's definitely become more amplified.
Yeah. And that being, again, the kind of whole reason why we figured to start this podcast up, just something that's like, just to get, a voice out there, get connect some of these groups of people that are equally as frustrated, because you just feel like you're just sort of wandering out in all of this mess alone. And you're wondering, is there anybody else out there that feels like we do? So But I definitely understand that feeling that you're saying you guys have, of just you're like, I just wanted to be a regular guy. It's like that country song. That's what you feel like.
I really feel like, and I think this is the majority of people in the Western world. I just want to go to work. And I just want to do my job, and then I want to come home to my family, and I don't want to spend 300 hours a day at work.
Right.
I just want to go to work for 8 hours a day, come home, be with my family, and have enough money on to be able to provide and live a healthy, happy life. And I think that's what everyone is chasing. And I feel like we've got this world that's constantly changing and attacking that freedom, that just simple life that we want, and the freedom to be able to chase more if we want it, or if we want to just sit back, relax, and just enjoy a simple life, like why can't we? And that's being attacked, I think, today. I think it is being. I don't think it's voluntary. I don't think anyone's setting out on purpose to destroy that. But I think it is on. I won't say the brink of destruction, but it is being attacked from many angles on many different fronts.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so let's get into the COVID stuff now. The good meat.
What we're all here for.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and walk us through like a rough timeline of the pandemic from your perspective. Like what were a few of the biggest moments for you and your family with each new COVID response, we'll call it, that came up in the news? How did each thing affect you and those around you, those that you know, your friends and family?
Yeah, sure. So I will say this. So I'm in Perth. I'm in Perth, West Australia. So Western Australia, for all the Americans that are unaware, is the state of Western Australia. It's actually the entire western side of Australia. That's what the name of the state is, Western Australia. So
it'd be
now
like
we have
if Washington State, Oregon, California were all one big thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. Yeah. It's just one massive. It's literally the entire 1/3 of Australia is Western Australia. So that's where I live. Okay, I live in Perth, which is the most isolated city in the world, which has also been a benefit to us for COVID.
Okay.
It is. Yeah, so it's been very beneficial for us because people don't want to come here anyway. It's too far to go. So I'll just explain the other states. So we have South Australia, which is just literally the middle south part of Australia. People live there. We have Northern Territory. We're moving up north from South Australia. There's no one there. It's basically just there's a few people that live there. There's some.
It's where that big red rock is, isn't it?
Yeah, where the big red rock is. Yeah, basically there's no one there. Like there's some people there, but Darwin is the capital city of that place. But that's a pretty small city. It's very small. It's a few 100,000. I don't think it's more than 1 million. Then we have Victoria, which is the south-east coast of Australia. We have New South Wales, which is the east coast of Australia. And then we have Queensland, which is the northeast coast of Australia. Okay. And Australia is pretty large, so it's not all on the coast, but you know what I'm saying. So in Western Australia, we haven't really had any dramas, to be honest. We've had a couple of lockdowns, and that's about it. As soon as we have one case of COVID, literally one case, we have an insane lockdown. It's just everyone's locked down. There's no social gatherings. There's nothing. It's just if you can't work from home, then you can go to work. But if there's no possible way for you to, if you can't work from home, you can go to work. Retail is shut down. Dentists are shut down. All the, a lot of things are shut down. If you're not deemed essential, you're shut down basically. So it's great for me. I get to go to work with no traffic, but but essentially, like the lockdowns haven't really affected me and my family at all, apart from having to wear masks, which I hate. But COVID also has not really been a thing in Western Australia. We have not really had any lockdowns. We've had 3 or 4, I think, and they've lasted 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month the most, and that's it. And then everything's back to normal.
Are they enforced? How are they enforced there when you go into lockdown?
Honestly, in Western Australia, they go on lockdown, and everyone pretty much does the right thing. No one disagrees with the lockdowns because they generally don't last long. We have a lockdown for a couple of weeks, and then everything goes back to normal, and we have 0 cases of COVID. So I want to give you that perspective from us. Like I've been living my life as if COVID doesn't exist for the last from March, effectively. Like we had a couple of things at the beginning, a couple of months of a central lockdown, and then after that, like it was just okay. COVID's gone, so no one's coming in. If you come into Australia, if you come into West Australia, like we had a couple of cruise boats and stuff, those people were quarantined in hotels and tested daily or whatever it was to make sure they didn't have COVID. And then once they felt safe to bring them out in the community, they were let out in the community. So Western Australia has been just basically we've had no COVID here. We have had a couple of months of lockdowns, but basically, and everyone was on support. Well, they were very much in support of the lockdowns and like, cool, let's just get this done, lock it down, and then move on. And it worked great. Yeah, it's worked great up till now. I will say that we are a fresh bunch of people, ready to spread COVID when it comes eventually. Yeah. We're basically delaying the inevitable as far as I understand. But so that's Western Australia. Yeah, so
well,
do you want to talk about
good for you guys? That's
I mean, good that you haven't had too hard. But I guess that's another thing too. You all the different areas that you've got. From over here, our individual states. There are some that are way stricter than others. New York, California, they've taken some of the most extreme stances on this and are even doing, the vaccine mandates now. California just mandated them all on kids, K through 12 grades.
But instead of only 5 or 6 different provinces to keep track of, we have 50. So.
Right, yeah. But then us here in Virginia, we're seeing some different industries that are taking upon themselves to make mandates, and we're hoping they don't come after the schools. We're kind of a middle ground. We don't go usually as extreme as some of the more extreme states, but then you've got ones like the state of Florida or the state of Texas that typically just stick hardcore to that freedom thing, and they don't have those kinds of restrictions. So that's kind of the way that you guys have going on, where you may not be as affected as I think one of the ones we've definitely heard, like New South Wales. I think they've got some pretty strict stuff. The Sydney area, I know, is a lot of really cracking down on people. So that's kind of the way it works for you guys, that you're left to be able to do your freedom thing pretty much.
Well, yeah, to an extent. Like we can't leave, so
okay.
I can't. I can leave, but if I come back after the 2 weeks quarantine, so how is anyone going to tell their boss they're going to be gone for 4 weeks? Like it's just not really that. And like, who wants to sit in a hotel for 2 weeks? Right. It's just not. No one's going to leave. So from Western Australia's standpoint, we don't. There was state travel for a little while to Queensland and Victoria and over east, and people did it. People, and then there was an issue over east. In any time there's been a massive COVID outbreak in Victoria, New South Wales, or Queensland, WA just says, "Nah, shut the border. Everyone that's over there that's coming back, sorry, you have to do 2 weeks quarantine," and that's just how it is. So. It's been WA has pretty much just cut itself off from the planet, basically. Now, Victoria obviously has been a totally different situation. They've had lockdowns for pretty much 300 days of the year since the beginning of COVID. 80% of the time that they've been, probably 50 to 80% of the time that since March, they've been in a lockdown. And we call him the Premier. So the Premier of of Queensland, the Premier of Victoria, his name is Daniel Andrews, and we call him Dictator Dan because because he just effectively any time there was a case, he just locked the state down. But the Victorians just couldn't seem to figure it out, and there was just spreading COVID everywhere, and the lockdowns would last on and on and on and on and on. And I think that's what's caused big issue over there is you've got these massive lockdowns, and the patience wears thin on the people. I think if everyone had the same situation as us, where they had lockdown for a couple of weeks and then move on, everyone would be fine, and you wouldn't be seeing these massive protests and things happening over there.
Right.
that you do now. But they've been locked down for a long time. I'm sure there's plenty of cafes that have been shut down. I'm sure there's plenty of businesses that have lost money and can't open again. I'm sure plenty of people have been very strongly negatively affected by what is government control. It's government, enforcement of it's a decision by the government to lock down, and then enforced by the police. And the police have been very happy to enforce that with force. So
we've seen some pretty disturbing videos coming out of Melbourne and Sydney specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Melbourne is the most lockdown city in the world right now. There's officially, it is the most lockdown city in the world. And I think it's a different culture in Victoria to WA. West Australia is much more down to earth, I think. But that's another. We could have a whole other podcast about separate cultures in different states.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so basically there has been states and New South Wales has sort of been in the middle of West Australia and Victoria. They've had cases. They're trying to open up by the 1st of December this year. December 1st, they want to be open. But that's because they've really pushed the vaccine as hard as they can, and everyone's just gone, oh well. That's the only way we're going to get out of lockdown. I guess we'll just get vaccinated. So everyone's getting the vaccine. Now, I think, anyway, there's something else I want to talk about here in regards to hospitals and the reasons for the lockdowns, if you want to move on to that, or do you want more context about the
No, you go ahead. No. Yeah, go ahead.
Go where you want to go.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to segue this, but I can't figure it out. So I just thought I'd just bring it up.
Go right ahead. That's fine.
So I think the situation with Australia versus America, as far as I'm aware, your medical system is majority private, isn't it?
It's kind of weird.
Like your hospital system.
Somewhat.
There's some private hospitals. There's some public hospitals.
Yeah, and I mean, there's you have your large entities that own multiple hospitals, and some private doctors can work under, like the one that we have right here around our area is called Centra, and they essentially own most of the healthcare within around our state of Virginia.
I think it has a lot to do with what your insurance will cover,
right?
As far as which hospital you can go to, and
so that's a very different situation to here. So basically over here, as far as I understand, over there in America, insurance is a huge thing, health insurance, and you'll never be able to go to the hospital without not paying money. Is that correct?
Well, again, depending on your insurance, but a lot of times.
Someone with, I guess, the government insurance plans that have been put into place over here, there is that option. Honestly, I don't know the inner workings of that. I've never been on one. I've always, sought out a job that has benefits to it. So I don't even know how all that works.
It gets kind of hairy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the reason I asked that is because I think it's actually quite not beneficial. What's the word? It's quite important in regards to these vaccine mandate type of things. These vaccine mandates that they want to put on people and put on. So, from what I can see, and I might be wrong, but basically, hospitals in America, like everyone in America, if you've got health insurance, then when you get sick, you should be able to go to the hospital and get yourself care and be taken care of. In Australia, we don't have. Most of people don't have health insurance. We don't need it because
keep talking. I gotta take a whiz. Sorry, I can't.
Too good. Love it, Cody.
Maybe not.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Don't cut it out. That's so good. So basically, here in Australia, the government provides healthcare. So we have what you would call free. You would call it free healthcare. It's not really. There's a small tax that we pay.
Sure. Okay.
Somewhere along the line, it's just incorporated in perfectly well I don't even know how it's paid for, but it's paid for somehow. It's through tax money.
Right. I mean, like I said, we do have.
So
we have the similar here. There is the government, and then everybody putting in on taxes. Then, like I said, some have private through their jobs and all. So yeah, I understand the concept of what you're talking about with the government insurance, because it does exist over here. I just personally have never been on it officially, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, we're on it automatically.
Okay.
We're on it automatically. I don't pay a cent, as far as I understand. Like, it doesn't change my life in any shape or form. I don't have to pay for insurance or anything like that. I can go to the hospital right now with a broken leg, and they'll fix it up for free, and I'll go home, and I'll never have to worry about the money.
Okay.
So that, as far as I understand, is totally different to America.
Right.
You would never have that type of situation. So what happens here is that the government is essentially in control of the healthcare. Is basically how it is. It's social healthcare. It's all paid through taxes. So, end of story. The government is in control of the hospitals. Now, if we have a situation where we have an outbreak of COVID, and you're there?
Yeah.
If we have an outbreak of COVID, then and our hospital system gets to a point where it's overloaded, okay, and we can't support, we can't take people in and give them the healthcare that they need. What that effectively shows is that the government has not been able to supply the healthcare to people that need it when they need it. So, okay, we've got 200 people that can't get into hospital in West Australia, for example, because of COVID. Let's say a few of those people die. You could almost pin that on the politicians and say, well, the healthcare system wasn't good enough, it's your fault. And if that makes sense. So what we have over here is we have a situation where politicians are like, we can't afford deaths. We simply can't afford deaths, because that's just simply because of a weakness in the healthcare system. Now, I think the way that COVID spreads makes it hard and complicated, considering it spreads very quickly. It goes throughout the community. Everyone that's going to get sick gets sick. It's sort of like if you had all the car crashes you were going to have in a year happen in 2 weeks.
Right.
Right. We hear all these statistics like obesity kills however many people a year and COVID only kills this much. But those obesity situations happen throughout the year. When COVID comes in, it spreads rapidly and everyone's getting it, and everyone that is going to die from COVID dies within a 2-week period or whatever, a very short period of time, because it spreads so quickly. And this is what happens if you don't have any lockdowns, obviously, and it just spreads freely throughout the community. Pretty much everyone's going to get it, and they're all going to, and then we're going to overload the healthcare system, and then that's the government's fault. That's effectively the viewpoint that I understand in Australia is. So in America, I can see that it's probably slightly different to that. If you have $1 million, if you're a multi-millionaire, you can afford the best health insurance ever, and you're going to be at the top of the line, top of the queue, and you're also someone that doesn't want to get the vaccine. I don't understand how or why you should be mandated to get the vaccine if you can afford that. Yeah. Because then if you get sick and you have to have a respirator, well, capitalism, baby.
That's right.
You can pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works. The person with the biggest wallet wins, and that's pretty much capitalism. It's a part of it.
For better or
and
for worse.
You can say it's a bug. Yeah, you can say that's a bug. You can say it's a feature of capitalism, but that's how it works. We don't have that in Australia. We have a socialist hospital care, which has been fantastic. Up until we had a pandemic, up until we have a situation where we have a virus that spreads so rapid that it has a dramatic effect on the healthcare system. So does that make sense? And I think that is the reason why you're seeing these vaccine mandates and the vaccine being pushed very hard in Australia, because the politicians simply can't afford to have COVID go berserk throughout Australia. Otherwise, we're going to have an overload of hospitals, and the government they don't know how to deal with that. Now, I don't understand why they haven't started building more hospitals and hiring more people for to do nursing jobs.
Yeah. Well, they build quarantine camps instead, right?
Yeah, that's right. They do. But here's the situation, and like, hear me out. I'm a freedom proponent, okay? But this is the issue. Let's say you could find those extra people and extra hospitals that you needed to deal with the COVID pandemic. And then in 2 years' time, you've dealt with it all and everyone's got the care they needed to get. And then you're going to have a whole lot of people being laid off, like lose their jobs because COVID is no longer an issue in a few years' time because the people that survived have got their immunity, or the people that have been vaccinated, whatever. If you think that works or not, that's fine. They don't have to go to hospital because they don't have any issues. Mm-hmm. Like COVID is no longer an issue. We don't have these spikes in cases. We don't have these spikes in hospitalizations. Well, we don't need all these nurses that we just hired. We don't need all these doctors. We don't need this hospital anymore. So it's a very complicated situation to be in Australia when it comes to the healthcare system because we can't. I don't think the politicians can figure out what to do in regards to it apart from lock everyone down so people don't get COVID and then slowly deal with people if they do. And then, okay, we've got this vaccine. Great. Well, let's just force it on everyone as hard as we can, and then we can open up. And then once we've opened up, which is you'll see in New South Wales, once we've opened up, we'll hope that our hospitals can handle it. And if they can't handle it, and it's a very big problem and it's a genuine issue, then they're probably going to have to lock down again. Let's say the vaccine isn't as effective as they want it to be. Well, then they'll start pushing booster shots. So that's the situation Australia is in. And for it or against it, whatever you want to say, that's just the situation from my view, from how I understand it. Yeah.
So now, have you guys, you mentioned the whole thing with the boosters and they talk about all the different variants. Have you guys, some of that, like the Delta and some of those boosters that have started to come out over there as well? Because we're seeing some of those starting to be implemented here where people are on their third, fourth, whatever.
Yeah, third or fourth, 10th, 11th. Just give me all the shots.
Right.
Yeah, no, we haven't even been able to get everyone double dosed yet. So boosters aren't even on the table yet. Yeah, that's that. You guys are in the land of milk and honey, and you have all the vaccines in the world. We don't.
Gotcha.
So yeah, they're just trying to get people double dosed over here. So I think effectively Australia is just trying to get everyone double dosed, and then they just want to just go for it. Do your best, and let's hope the healthcare system can hold up. And I think that's pretty much the politicians' viewpoint and the way they plan on dealing with COVID. And that's taken, a long time.
Right.
And I've got and this is where it becomes an issue when it comes to mandates, because personally, I don't want to get the vaccine. Okay, that's my decision. It's something that I'm not in support of. I don't like new things. Okay, when new technology comes out, there's always a problem. That's just how I understand. I don't know. I don't want to talk about the science. I don't really care. All I know is this is a brand new style of vaccine. And someone can tell me that they've been working on this for years and years and years. I don't care. I really don't. They worked on airbags for cars for years and years and years, and then people died from airbags going off randomly in their car as they were driving. That happened.
Right. Yeah.
So they had to recall all the cars and then fix the airbags and move on. I'm not going to be one of those people. You can't recall a vaccine once it's in your body, Yeah. So I'm just trying to be a risk-averse human being and go, okay, this is new. I will wait as long as I can until I decide I'm going to get this vaccine because I want to see the effects. I want to see what happens, That's just a wise thing to do, in my opinion.
Oh,
and
agreed.
Yeah, and this is the issue, right? You've got a bunch of people that are risk averse, and I think they're actually quite smart and intelligent human beings that are going, it's new, I'm not sure, and then you've got the government saying, well, if you don't get it, you can't work. Sorry. And this is the problem that we're seeing in Australia, as far as I can see, from my perspective as a casual, everyday bloke, just watching what's happening around the world. I watch regularly what's going on in Victoria and New South Wales on the news and over in America, because my wife's American, and we could potentially move there one day. So I want to make sure I'm, seeing what's happening and understanding the political landscape. But
Yeah, right.
yeah, that's as far as I understand. Yeah, I sort of don't know what else to say now. I can't remember what we're talking about. Like, what you wanted me to talk about?
No, it's fine. You mentioned the thing about the, you guys are still going through doing short lockdowns, and you said you're worried about overwhelming those hospitals. Over here we had that for some types of businesses, like the ones deemed non-essential and all, they had a 3 to 4 month period where most of those had to shut down. And, there's been debate on how overwhelmed our hospitals have or haven't become. But, like the situation like we're facing now, where they've kind of gone and through all of these private entity, large corporate hospital systems, trying to mandate, the vaccines. And there's a, whatever percentage of those healthcare workers that have been working all the way through this. They've been treating people. They've been and they've had
already got COVID.
Yeah, well, yeah, already got it or haven't even gotten it, but
And they're not vaccinated.
and haven't been vaccinated. But they're like you, for whatever reason, they just don't want to get it. But now they're being told you can't work here anymore unless you get this, unless you do what we're telling you to do. And they're trying for religious exemption type, applying for that. But I mean, we're seeing our hospitals, there are people who are being forced out in droves because they're not going to just take this thing because they're told to. They're like, no, I don't want to do that. That's not right. Where you guys are, preventing that overrun of your hospital. We're seeing hospitals overrun, not even necessarily from COVID, or we will definitely see them overrun here soon, but because
they're about to fire.
Yeah, they're getting rid of all across the country. They're getting rid of nurses and doctors because they won't comply. So it's like we're putting a horrible strain on our, potentially here in the very near future on our medical system because there's just going to be no one to staff it. It's and then.
And this is where it just becomes political, doesn't it? It's just a political game,
right?
For these people. Like no one's real. I think most people have lost the perspective of what's the most important situation here. What's the most important thing? The most important thing is that we can provide healthcare to people that need it. Right. That is at the end of the whole thing. Everything to do with COVID, the whole lot. If we had a situation where we could just let COVID run and we had no problems handling the outbreaks, in regards to we had all the hospital beds we needed and all the people we needed, then there wouldn't be an issue. This wouldn't be a problem because you can get the healthcare. And you died of a virus because you were unhealthy. Well, I'm sorry, but that was your decision to eat that donut. I'm gonna go there. Like,
no, that's
what I mean. Like,
we had our podcast with Dr. Powers. We were talking about a lot of the therapeutics that can prevent you from even getting hospitalized, whether or not you have comorbidities and pre-existing conditions. But that's not being pushed. It's just the vaccine. The vaccine's the only option, and that's what's really outraging.
Yeah, exactly. And where are we? We're not hearing anyone saying, go exercise or go eat fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
We're not hearing any of that stuff. All we're hearing is get the vaccine and move on with your life. Oh, but then you need to get a booster, and then in 2 years' time you need to get another one. And like to me, that it's just not correct. You can't just give people one option.
No.
And it makes you wonder. And here's the thing: it makes you wonder why.
Oh yeah, it really does.
Australians are, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I just don't really care about them, to be honest. But even there's plenty of Australians that I've talked to that have gone, it seems a little fishy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we want to know a little bit about that. Like, what do a lot of the Aussies think about this sort of thing? Because it seems you say a lot of them are just willing to comply, but we've also seen videos of them mass protests. Some crazy stuff happening with the police. Why the heck are the police acting the way that? What gets in their head? I don't know if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's just Victorian police culture. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I don't know them, but it seems nuts from what I can see. Like I'm seeing the same videos you guys are seeing.
Right.
When it comes to complying and not complying, I think like majority of people are like, yeah, sure, I'll just comply. I don't care. And then, but it is quite like. We're going from being a free country to no longer being a free country. And I'll say, and I said that on Facebook once, and someone said that's a bit extreme. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, no, it's not extreme at all, because here's the situation: freedom is confined. Freedom is confined within boundaries and rules. It is.
Yeah,
Sure.
You
Oh,
can't,
yeah.
of course.
You cannot murder. Okay,
Yeah.
We've all decided that's a fantastic idea to make that a law. That's what we've all decided. Now, the vast majority, I'd say 99.999% of people agree with that statement. You should not murder. Okay. And what happens is, on each other law, we might have like 90% agree with that. All right, fair enough. That's a good law. Sure. What happens when we get down to 20% don't agree and 80% agree? I wouldn't say I'd say the majority agrees, but I wouldn't say the vast majority agrees. We also don't know, so we're talking about these vaccine mandates and getting the vaccine and pushing it on people. Like they pushed it on construction workers in Victoria. They said you can't work, you can't go to work unless you've had the vaccine. Now that in my opinion was the end of freedom in Australia, because all that means is, we've decided as politicians that that's the best thing to do, so that's what you need to do. Okay, so then we see thousands and thousands of people protesting and saying, no, we do not agree with this. Yeah. It's quite obvious that people don't go out of their way to protest on something unless they really feel strongly about it. So you're most likely seeing, I don't know. I'm not going to say statistics, right? But you're seeing a lot of people that disagree with it. Then there's the people that disagree with these vaccine mandates but aren't willing to subdue themselves to violence. They don't want to be a part of violence because they don't want to get arrested. They don't want to get fined. They're not willing to actually have the courage to stand up and say, no, I disagree. Okay? How many of those people are disagreeing with these vaccine mandates? So I think it's pretty fair to say that the vast majority don't agree with vaccine mandates. And so how can you say that it's something we can put into law? Because this is a democracy. The politicians work for us. We decide what the laws are going to be. That's how democracy works. Better or for worse, that's just how it works. Now, you can talk about politicians getting paid off by companies and all that sort of stuff. That's fine. And I think there's probably a little bit of that happening. But in Australia, I'm not sure. It's probably not as – I don't think Australian politics is quite as corrupt as America. America's a larger economy, so there's probably some more issues there. But I would say that, we obviously can see that the vast majority don't agree with vaccine mandates. So if you're going to push them and say that I can't work without a vaccine, then that has become a dictatorship. That's no longer a freedom state. So, yeah, that's how I see it.
It seems like it's taken a lot longer for there to be outrage in Australia than in America. I mean, we're ready to protest if you say you can't use the bathroom in public or something. We protest at the smallest infringement on our rights. And
you got guns, man. You guys are good to go. You're like, let's rock and roll.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think that
is a part of it too. Truly,
that is a part of it. But I think that's honestly, I think that can be almost kind of a crutch for us as well, because you've got those ones that are just rearing and ready to go because they've got their guns, and you're like, yeah. Pipe down over there. That's not what we do right now. That's not what you need to be thinking. You're not just going to go in guns ablazing to your own government. That's stupid. Now is the time that if you're going to get out there and you're going to protest, like what we're seeing in the harshest areas over there where you are, the ones that have really cracked down on stuff, you got people taken to the streets, you got people carrying signs, you got people shouting out against this stuff. And we've seen that over here to some extent. And we've also seen kind of a lot of passivity about it over here. There've been a lot of just where
it is mixed.
There's not as much, and not even, it's all just one big ball of cultural just mess, because it doesn't even just include mandates for vaccines and stuff. All the other things, it's like you'll see reports out of some areas where, people are in there protesting at a, whether it's at a school board or at a, out on the street somewhere. And in other areas, you just feel like nothing at all is happening.
Yeah.
Even though the same mandates or the same things are happening to all those people. But, so it's like we either have what seems like one extreme or the other, and then there's this the wash of confusion in the middle. So,
you guys have like it's been a year and a half, and then suddenly there's this mass outrage in Australia, and you see this video of this this guy. I don't know if I should say he's a hero or not, but he goes and tackles like 5 policemen on his own who are trying to lock down the city.
Right, and that's the thing. It's
and here we kind of we're slowly becoming more and more united. But we've been in protest from the beginning.
Yeah,
just not everyone all at once.
I would say that is because on that day they decided to make construction workers mandatory. Like if they hadn't had the vaccine, they couldn't work. That was the moment that we saw that.
Well, they messed with the tradies.
Cody, that's exactly it. Like you mess with the people that are willing to stand up. Tradies are pretty opinionated people. We're down to earth, hard-working guys that just want to do our job and get paid, right?
Right.
We're not. And when you tell us that we can't work because unless we get the vaccine, whether we just think the vaccine is a great thing or not, we're probably going to say, well, screw you, man. Like, you can't tell me I can't do it. Like, it's classic Western, like, you can't tell me I can't do that. Like, I will make my own decision. I'm a free man. Yeah. And that's exactly it. That pretty much sums it up. I'm a free man when I get to make my own decisions.
Right.
But when the government tells me that I have to get a vaccine so that I can work, like I seriously, like personally, I don't want to get the Pfizer or whatever vaccine.
Right.
I've looked at the Novavax, and I think the Novavax is actually, if I am going to get a vaccine, I think the Novavax is probably one I want to get. But I'm at a point now where I'm thinking, even if I want to get the Novavax, right, do I not get it to protest for freedom? Do I say, no, I'm not going to get the vaccine because I don't believe that you should be forcing this on people?
Yeah,
right.
And I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to get it because I think that you're infringing on my freedom and you're infringing on other people's freedoms.
That's exactly
right.
That's really important.
This is not about vaccines.
Mm-hmm. And
this isn't about science. It's not about vaccines. This is about freedom. And it's a very nuanced thing. It's a very complicated thing. I haven't figured it out. There's plenty of other smarter people out there that could school me on my opinion. I guarantee it.
Oh, sure.
But the problem is, like, this is a democracy. And here's the reality. The system is set up in this way. This is a democracy. The people get to choose the laws. That's how this works.
Yeah.
The politicians are there just to make orderly decisions around what the people want. That's literally the way our country is supposed to run. Okay? So if the vast majority don't agree with this, then the politicians need to sit back and go, okay, we've got all these protests. These people don't agree with this. Is there another thing we can do? Is there something else that we can do? And they're not doing that. They're just saying, nah, too bad, get the vaccine. That's an issue. Yeah, and I think that's why you're seeing these protests, is because it's just been like that. Right. Instantly, out of nowhere, we've got this infringement on freedom. And Australians have had freedom since we became a country, and we don't like not having that freedom anymore. We're like, no, I'm not down for that. I want my freedom. I want to be able to go to work and do that. But then, you can say that like, well, if you didn't get the vaccine, then and you spread it to someone else, which by the way you can do anyway. Or let's say you didn't get the vaccine and you got really sick, and then you had to go to hospital. That's one more hospital bed that someone else could have been in, right? But then if you got the vaccine and you didn't get really sick, then you didn't end up in hospital, right? So you can say it does affect other people. That's the problem. But it only affects other people because the hospital system isn't good enough for the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So from my viewpoint, well, we pay taxes for that. I'm sorry, but that's not my problem. That's the politician's problem. That's why I pay taxes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
So I can have healthcare. So why don't the politicians fix that? I'm sorry, but it's just not my problem.
Yeah.
I'm a free man, and I should be a free man. And because you can't figure out a situation as a politician, it doesn't mean you infringe on my freedoms. And this is the issue. And people can argue and debate about this all day. But I think that, like, that's my personal opinion about it. And I'm a strong believer in freedom. I want to be a free man. I want to be able to make the decision to do something stupid if I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to make the decision to do something smart if I want to do it. You know?
Well,
I want to be able to invest in things I want to invest in. I want to be able to work in the industry I want to work in.
Yeah.
That's called being a free man.
Yeah.
And I strongly stand for that.
Yeah. As I think as patriotic Americans, we can tell you that that's the right opinion to have.
Right. Completely endorse that decision. No, that's the way it should be.
We were talking too about Ryan and I were talking just to ourselves about these religious exemptions and medical exemptions about, man, are these things even necessary? Because like you said, well, should I even get it just out of principle? Because it's not about safety, it's about freedom now. And so, you can justify a religious exemption all day. Sure. No doubt. Our bodies, their temple of the Holy Spirit. Like we had that conversation with Brad.
Right.
And I love it. Yeah. It's important. But it's also important to talk about the necessity of it. Because, it's the fact is, this is a virus with a high survivability rate across most demographics.
Mm-hmm.
So from the beginning, why is there not this crazy response for the flu, for the common cold? And you can debate all day, but at the end of the day, it is about freedom, and America is a pretty fat country. I
believe the most fat country.
One of.
Well, I guess that part just to that. We're facing a situation where they obviously don't really care about what those, laws of our land, laws of your land, they don't seem to be abiding by them. The debate on whether the religious exemption is necessary and all that. I completely agree with the freedom stance on it, and I think that alone should definitely be grounds to stand on. But when the situation that we're facing right now over here, the federal government has basically issued a statement on that they have no control over actually enforcing onto a government group that has no actual means of enforcing it, which is OSHA, your job site safety organization, but they don't have a law enforcement.
Talking about Biden's.
Right. Yeah. Our mandates that we've got that he put out there, he put it on OSHA, but they can fine people for, certain job safety violations and things. But there's no structure for a vaccine. It's just not what it was created to do. But yet there's been no deadline or anything put on it officially that, but we're seeing in they've issued it through the military, they've issued it through, whether it's police and EMS and all your medical fields and any company over 100 people now has said that they need to comply with this. there's no real structure that proves that needs to be a thing, that should be a thing, or that can be enforced as a thing. But the companies are just jumping on kind of ahead of any of that and complying with it. Some of them, and
Yeah.
so is that freedom stance a means to stand on? Kind of, because you don't even know what freedoms you can assume. They don't really assume you have any freedoms anymore. You don't, it just seems that way. That's the way it seems to me that they're like, just in its core, it's not constitutional. It does not support freedom, but they did it anyway. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. and this is what you get when you have a country that's lived in freedom for a long time. You get a complacency for freedom.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They go, well, what? Oh, who cares? It's the freedom, whatever. You heard Arnold Schwarzenegger say, "Screw your freedom."
Yeah.
Dude, you moved to America because it's a free country. I'm sorry, but like, if you don't like it, you can piss off. Like, go back to wherever it was you came from, dude. Like, you became a multimillionaire because of freedom. Yeah. That's the reason you became a multimillionaire. So, like, and freedom's not free, man. Like, there was World War I. There was World War II. How many people died so we could live in free countries?
Right.
How many people? And like, you could say that we're at a point now where people are dying for the sake of our freedom. Very possible. Yeah. You can argue that big time. And you could say they're dying involuntarily for the sake of their freedom.
Yeah.
Now, you could say that in Australia. But you cannot say that in America, because if someone has worked their butt off and they have financial means to be able to secure a bed for themselves in a room. Now, this is very harsh. I'm making a very harsh statement. I understand that. And like, this is just an opinion, and I could change my opinion because someone has a better argument. I'm not the type of person to just like make blanket statements. But you live in a free country. You have the ability to make money, and if you have then you have the ability to secure a room for yourself if you do get extremely sick. You also have the ability to take the vaccine if you think that's the best thing to do. In America, you have the ability to do anything you want. So I don't see any reason why you should take people's freedoms away. I don't understand it, And the fact that there's no talk about natural immunity. What the hell is going on there, man? Mm-hmm. Like, how can you say that you really care about people and you care about this? I'm sorry, I'm getting a little fired up, but like,
go for it.
You can't tell me you care about someone's safety if you won't even take into consideration, like, the actual science that natural immunity is a legitimate thing. And we've had natural immunity to plenty of different viruses before, and you can't just say all of a sudden that it doesn't work for COVID. I'm sorry, but that's BS. You can't do that. And if you don't study everything you possibly can about a prophylactic, even one that could possibly be on the market already, starts with an I. We've all heard of it before. I'm sorry, but if you don't want to consider that, then you don't care about people's safety.
Yeah, right.
Like, you just don't care. You do not care. It is a political move, and that's what I'm talking about. The politics in America are an issue, and I don't know who's getting paid. I don't know, but it costs a lot of money to become president. You can't just all of a sudden say, "Hey, I'm not American, so I'm Cody, and I want to be president. I've got $500 to campaign." It don't work like that. You need $200 million to campaign for presidency in America.
Right.
So who's paying that? Oh, well, someone gave him some money for it. It's a business, man. Being a politician is not about being a spokesperson for people. It's about making money. It's about it's about having a business. Now, some people do stand for people. And that's good. And there's some great politicians out there. I'm not going to say they're all idiots.
Yeah, right.
But there's obvious political gain here for pushing vaccine. There's obvious political gain here because if they really cared about your safety, I said it already, then they would do the research on ivermectin. They would do the research on other prophylactics that we have on the market. I've heard about other things as well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is where all of us, we sit there and we go, well, I would get the vaccine maybe if it wasn't so weird. If everything wasn't just a little bit fishy, if everything wasn't so pushed on us, maybe I might just get the vaccine. You know, like if you just put it there and said, hey, you can come get the vaccine, then, well, it doesn't seem that dodgy. But now it seems dodgy because you won't even research natural immunity and ivermectin.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. Like, come on. You're telling me you care about safety? You don't care about nothing apart from your political opinion and your political gain. Like, sorry, I'll ease up. But, like...
No, that's what we asked you.
We're with you. Yeah.
I'm just not down for it. I'm just not okay with it. And we've watched the world's economy be annihilated because of political opinion and political gain. That's what we've seen. And you can't tell me you can just keep printing money left, right, and center. They print $120 billion a month. That's how much money they print in the US at the moment. They print $120 billion a month. And you know what that is? That's a tax on the poor person, because the more something you print of it, the less it's worth.
Right.
And if all you have is cash because you live week to week and your paycheck isn't going up that much every week, I'm sorry, but you're losing money. You're getting taxed. And Biden saying that he's going to tax the rich, that's a lot of rubbish, because he's just printing all his money. He's already taxing the poor. That's what he's already doing. He's doing that right now. Right now, they're printing money right now, and they're literally every day making it harder for poor people. That's happening. Right. That's not like false. No, you know, it's not misinformation. That's
not at all.
Actually happening.
Yeah.
No, and if we know this, right? If we're, like you said, we're all just average guys, just want to work hard, make our way through life. If we can figure that out, well, what these politicians, they know this too. So then it begs the question, why?
Yeah.
That's what
we don't know, bro. That's the question. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that's my rant. I didn't mean to blast everyone.
No.
I'm sure the people listening are gonna be like, "What the hell? This Aussie bloke's crazy." But
I mean, you represent some strong opinions that are probably within our listening audience.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You definitely have some shared opinions out there. That's for sure. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want. I like to be open minded, and I like to hear viewpoints that make sense, and yeah, be open minded. And if someone has a different opinion, I'm willing to listen. But that's my opinion up to this point, from what I've learned from my education, from what I can see. So, yeah. Anyway, that's and you know, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's been great. You know, I guess we'll definitely thank you for all that, because just, you know, we're across the world from each other and so much in common, you know, like that's amazing. So I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up, but anything you want to, closing thoughts on, to the Australians, to the Americans, anything else, just, a last thing you want to throw out there, just kind of your message of hope, your thoughts on it all. Where are we going from here?
Hey, all right, like, this is where I stand, and someone else can have a different opinion, but like, my God is my Lord of my life is Jesus. It's not Scott Morrison, who's the current Prime Minister of Australia. It's not Joe Biden, who's the president.
Right.
I don't care. They can do whatever they want to do, man. But I'm going to listen to the Holy Spirit. I'm going to trust God. And like, I'm sorry if I come off as some crazy right-wing Christian, but like, that's my opinion, and that's where I sit. And like, I don't want to offend someone, but like, that's just where I'm at, And I just think God's my ruler, man. I trust God, and I just want to say to everyone that's out there that that's living in this world and is worried, quit worrying. Like, I obviously have strong opinions, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. That's good. It does frustrate me because, like not everyone's educated. I'm not fully educated, and we're all doing our best in the world to make our own decisions that are going to benefit us and our family. But I just think, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to do what He's called me to do. I'm going to say what I think because that's what I think is the right thing to do as a man. I think the right thing to do is have an opinion and say it and speak your mind. And even a couple of years down the road, you change your mind, you realize that was a stupid thing to say. Then you stand up and say, "Hey, that was wrong." But so that's my opinion on the reason I should have an opinion. I think it's a good thing to speak up and say what you think because we need more people that are willing to do that, and we need people that are willing to listen to what other people have to say. But God's my provider, man. I'm gonna trust Him. I'm gonna live for Him, and don't worry about the politics. Don't worry about the people that are in power because they're not really in power, man. Like they're just there. They're just a part of the world, and God's gonna take care of you. So you trust in God and live the dream. That's my opinion. John 10:10, man.
Amen.
He makes,
there you go. Yeah, that's great.
John 10:10.
Yeah, so good.
Well, yeah. Thank you again for this.
Yeah,
it's been
thanks.
awesome, and nice to meet you. Good to get to know you. Maybe we'll give you a call again sometime and just hang out and chat. This has been really good. So thanks.
Yeah, man. I'd love to hear more about you and your story too. I haven't even heard anything from you. But I just want to say thanks for giving me this platform to speak. And I'm just a layman, just a Aussie bloke that's trying his best. And I appreciate you guys letting me talk on this podcast. I really do. I really hold high value in this. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it's been really great hearing from you. So, all right. Well,
take it easy.
See ya.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yep.
See ya.
Good night.
All right. Well, that was great. I'm really glad that worked out for him to call in for us. With the 12-hour time difference, we had to figure out and set up how we were going to get in touch with him. So we weren't calling him at 5 a.m. and so we did an early morning show here today. But I don't even really think we need to go into a whole lot after that because the whole thing was just very kind of discussion dense. I mean that was great, just having a regular guy conversation with his viewpoint from the other side of the world and everything that they're dealing with, and yet we have so many similarities in our in the views on it, and just making it through it. And like he said that his faith is in God, and he's just, I guess, they're almost trying to roll with the punches and just not worry about it, but do what he's got to do what he feels God's leading him to do. I thought that whole thing went great.
Yeah, that was, I think, exactly what we wanted. It just inviting a normal guy. Everyone hears the voices of prominent people, politicians, and that, and you hear every now and then your school board meeting, your outraged parent. But I don't know. I hope that was enjoyable. I sure enjoyed it.
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was great. But so I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. It actually ended up being another long one. I mean, like I said, it was just like hanging out, and went into over an hour. So, but so we'll go ahead and wrap up. But just wanted to again plug the next episode coming up will be with Pastor Jason Bender. We're going to talk a little bit about biblical manhood and just masculinity in general, the assault on masculinity.
Just the family structure as well,
right? Yeah. So we're going to get into a lot of different topics with him. That'll be coming up here next week. We're gonna be calling him. So everybody stay tuned for that one. And then be sure and check out all of our. Let's see, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcast, we're on SoundCloud, YouTube, Rumble. So everybody, whichever platform it is that you've found us on, make sure that you subscribe and keep an ear out for new episodes coming. And then again, we would love your feedback, your suggestions, you can get in touch with us at battlefieldspodcast@protonmail.com. battlefieldspodcast@protonmail.com. Yeah, I guess that's a wrap, but thank you guys, and everybody keep fighting the good fight, and God bless.
What will you do without freedom? Will you fight?